The Great is Hulu's outrageous period comedy exploring the rise of Catherine the Great. I'm Rob Licoria, senior editor at Gold Digger, and here with the show's star, Elle Fanning. Elle, The Great is irreverent. It's often very explicit. It's very funny. It's not a tone we often see in period films and series. So what attracted you to the role?
That's a big question. I got the script from Tony McNamara, who this originally was a play that he had put on in Australia years ago, and then had turned that play into a film script with possibly maybe it being a movie, and that's actually what I read. And just the young Catherine was a sliver of that story. So the script that I had spanned her whole life, and then Tony was like, you know what? There's so much information on her and so much there. So read this, with a TV show in mind, possibly that we get to expand it, and maybe the first season will be about the young Catherine and her rise to power. And I hadn't even seen The Favorite, which Tony wrote at that point. So reading the script for me was a true surprise and a real wild ride. Just the language and the wittiness, but also the heart. I think it's a truly emotional story to me of Catherine and her rise, and such a unique character. And I knew it would be a great challenge to play. Even just with the tone alone, to get that specifically right is a challenge, but also to show this woman grow. And I wasn't really that familiar with Catherine the Great. I wasn't taught about her in school. I knew she was the Empress of Russia, and I knew about the horse incident, propaganda, fake news. And that's all I knew, sadly, that's all I knew. And just learning about her, and, of course, we're not historically accurate all the time, but there are amazing facts and things she did in her life that are completely represented in our show. We just get to do it in a fun way, not a dull, period piece way.
Absolutely. I didn't really know much about her either. And when you look into what she did, her influence and reign was so transformational for Russia and for the world. Were you keen to portray her authentically, despite the show, as you say, being a comedy and not necessarily being historically accurate, but you still have to kind of play her as a person? So what were you looking for to get into her mindset?
Gosh, I wanted to humanize her. I feel like, she is this historical figure that we know what she did. She did incredible things, but I wanted to make her human. I wanted to figure out what makes her tick. I didn't want to make her, the strongest person in the room, or I'm kind of allergic to the term strong female character, because I'm like, I don't really know what that means. I feel like I want to play a human who has many layers, who always doesn't have the right answer. Catherine makes mistakes. She has to learn from others. She sometimes feels very weak. She doubts herself. Like she's grappling with all of this, and she makes a lot of big decisions and sacrifices. And what's so beautiful about her is she, in the beginning, she's extremely romantic and very optimistic, and it's this gorgeous quality that she has. And when she arrives in Russia, kind of reality slaps her in the face, and she's faced with this upside down world. And she is like, I'm going to change it. And I think there's two people in the world. It's like either they kind of are like, all right, you know what, I'll just live with it, or I'm actually going to try to do something. And she really tries to do something, and it's the journey to that. So she's feisty. She's even a bit, I would say she has an ego. She has a good arrogance to her, which I always love to play, just mapping out the different qualities. So I was more interested in just creating our version of her, but instead of really researching tons of facts about the real Catherine the Great. Although Catherine the Great in real life, she invented the roller coaster. So that tells you a lot about a person. I'm like, okay, that person's fun. That's someone I want to know.
That's really true. And, it occurred to me about 10 minutes into the first episode that I was like, oh, okay. So Catherine's the outsider. And she, to me, felt like the surrogate for the audience, because we're looking at all these morons in the court and, this very backward society, and she's looking at them too, like, this is not acceptable and I'm going to change it. Did that aspect of being the outsider inform how you were going to tackle her?
A bit. I think there is a side to her in the show that she is, the straight man a bit. She is the observer of all the hijinks that are going on around her. So I guess in many ways she reflects the audience and how, they're viewing this world that's a bit like off kilter. So I knew that I kind of was the eyes to that. So I guess I guess it influenced me in that way, but I guess it's something that maybe I didn't try to think about too much, but it is obvious that she's a lot of things are happening to her, in the series. Yeah.
And as we mentioned earlier, it is very funny. A big part of the show's comedy is the interplay between you and Nick Hoult, who is hysterical as the impulsive and idiotic Peter. Talk me through your dynamic with him and what he brought to the set.
Gosh, Nick is absolutely incredible. He somehow has managed to be so evil as Peter, but also so incredibly charming, and I think that Catherine even is kind of fighting with herself, because at times she finds him kind of amusing and entertaining, and then also sometimes utterly disgusting. So it's like, Nick has this, he's just so incredible and so funny, he was the best scene partner, really. I mean, we're very comfortable with each other. I think we're not embarrassed around each other, and I think that helps, because our dynamic on set when we're doing those scenes is we want to challenge each other. So it kind of is like Catherine and Peter's in a way, because we're like, all right, we want to top each other and play around, and maybe it's because we were both young actors growing up, but I think we have a very similar relationship to the set and how we work. Yeah. So we're just very similar actors, and I think helped us immensely, because we were really like in it together and wanted to try to kind of do the craziest thing, and we'd be like, all right, let's rein it back, let's experiment, go here, go there, and Tony creates this world that, we don't ad lib at all. Like, that is a no-no. We're very like stay to the script, word for word. And kind of there are these restraints, but because you have that restraint, you get to kind of be spontaneous and play all these other ways. Like, even when it's written, Tony doesn't write a lot of description either in the scene. So you can really do whatever you want, but you just, say those words, but you can bring whatever you want to it. So to have Nick, a partner who was willing to go there, I think pushed me too. And just the rhythm of the banter, he was a little bit more used to, because he had been in The Favorite. So I learned a lot from him during filming, for sure.
As you've mentioned, you get to say some beautifully acerbic one-liners and insults as Catherine wanting to take over the kingdom. It's the highlight of the show. Tony's writing is so exceptional. I mean, an Oscar-nominated writer for The Favorite. Was there any room at all to, like, what, I know you couldn't ad-lib, but what, as you have just mentioned, what flavor were you giving his very specific language that you guys were actually speaking? Give us an example, perhaps.
Oh gosh, I'm like, the ones that I think are like all these like bad language. I know. I'm like, I need to like think of some good ones to say, because everyone always asks me. I always think about Nick's lines, because his are so like, he's talking about, I just blew my bag in Madame Dumas. I was like, that we had, I mean, as Catherine, her character, she was supposed to be like shocked by that, and I was like shocked. I was like, I have never heard that in my life. Just like, where does Tony get these things? How does he come up with it? And funny, I don't know if he said it to you, but the other day we were doing one of these interviews, and he said, I don't write jokes. And I'm like, geez, like, wow, he's just a genius in that department. The wordplay on everything. I know. I'm like, what was? I mean, the whole sex speech that I say in the pilot was so fun to learn and to play. And just the language of that, just learning everything. I don't know. It just brings me back. It's so specific. There's nothing like it. Those words.
I know, right? It's when you're picking up a script though, do you ever think, oh my God, this is too much. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it all. or did you take it in your stride? Because it's a lot. It's a lot to have to remember and do properly.
Oh yeah, of course you're terrified. I'm terrified. You can't help but think. I mean, Nick and I would be looking through the scripts. We're like, you see a big paragraph and it's like, and you're like, oh, it says Peter up there. Phew, we're like, we would laugh and kind of joke at each other because we would always get these kind of monster paragraphs of scenes. And but at the same time, I mean, that's what I'm in it for. That's what I want. I am someone, I like kind of putting myself under pressure in pressurized situations and to feel very scared. I feel like I thrive in those situations. So maybe these 6 months were perfect for me in that way. But the memorization muscle, really, it is a muscle, truly. I worked it hard over that. So it became easier to get your mouth around the words. But I think it was just the fun of it. It felt like Shakespeare, or something almost.
Absolutely. You touched on this earlier, but as I was watching the season, it did occur to me that both you and Nick were child actors, and you're both young, in the beginnings of your careers, so to speak. You've got your decades to come. Do you find that is a way for you to bond with your co-star when you've both shared that experience as children?
Yeah, I think it's something that we did know, and weirdly enough, we've worked together before in a small movie called Young Ones. I was 14, he was 21, and we were married in that. So we have this like long line of really bizarre marriages, kind of messed up marriages, but I think that you do relate on some level, maybe it's unspoken or not. It's like, oh yeah, you see each other and can relate to certain things. And it's not necessarily something we talk to each other about all the time, but I think it's just kind of like a nod of understanding and the same relationship to the set. I don't know, learning from others. I think it's like, learning from the people that before you that you've worked with and gotten to work with. He's obviously gotten to work with huge, legends in the industry and learn from them. And what do you pick up from people? Because I don't think Nick went to like school for acting, and I didn't either. So our school was set, that was it, being on set and learning from different directors and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's feelings mutual between us.
Yeah. I think that's so fascinating. You said something earlier I'd like to explore if we could, and it's what you think the show says about feminism or women in power, positions of power, because you say that you're allergic to strong women in that concept, which I think is really intelligent thing to say because you're strong human beings. But what is the show trying to say about women in power? Because it's something that comes up a lot in our culture these days.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, why the show is also so modern. And I love that it's told in this way because it brings these themes to modern audiences and are themes that we're still dealing with today, sadly. But that, Catherine the Great is truly a feminist icon. Like, she is the woman who went head on with the man and ultimately took him down. Like, she went head to head with him, and just the power of that and what that says, I think, is so beautiful. And also to talk about kind of the relationship she has with her maid Mariel is, I think, a beautiful kind of female friendship on screen. I just love the way that we interact with each other. Phoebe Fox plays Mariel, and she's incredible, so funny, and like, I love her dearly. But just getting to show that on screen. And also, we don't really know where Mariel's trust lies as well. So there's a bit of uncertainty there with that friendship. But yeah, I think, it obviously, feminism is greatly touched on in this series, and who Catherine, represents in history, and, what she represents today and now, and just, Taking Down the Man. She's like the original of that.
Yeah, she's the OG. She definitely is.
Yeah.
I've got two non-the great questions before we wrap
Okay.
up. And the first one is, I just thought it was so cool that you are the youngest person ever appointed to the jury at the Cannes Film Festival. And that wasn't very long ago. Like, it feels like years ago because we're all at home now. But what was the highlight from that incredible experience?
Man, I don't know if I can even pick just one. I think that was really one of like the best experiences of my life. Those weeks, getting to watch those films and discuss with like people that I look up to on like just a huge level, like these artists and creatives, and them actually, you know, giving me the respect to want to listen to what I had to say. Like, I'm eternally grateful to them for allowing me. Oh my gosh, my dog! Sorry, for allowing, you know, me to have that opportunity and to also be able to, you know, I was definitely young, and like I knew that was what an opportunity it was, and how grateful I was for that. And even I was like, what? Like, they're asking me? Like, I was shocked. I was like, I couldn't believe this. But then I, you know, thought about it and how the festival is also kind of growing and including me, who's young, who's kind of the voice of a new generation, and watching movies from those eyes. I think it was really neat on their part to do that. And they gave me an experience I'll never forget. So
it was so great. I mean, diversity is about all kinds of different people, and you're speaking, as you say, from someone from a younger voice, and you've got so much experience. You've been acting for a long time, and that was the jury that awarded Parasite, which was quite prescient, given that became, you know, the big film of the year. So that, you know, you'll carry that with you for the rest of your life. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. Another really cool thing that I'm bringing up, because I have kids of my own, so I'm very aware of the fact that you play Aurora in the Maleficent movies. Professionally and personally, what's it like to play a real-life Disney princess? Because I know my daughter, that's probably one of her dreams. So what was it like to do that?
I relate to her. Growing up, you know, my dream was to be a Disney princess, like in real life. That can be my job, right? Like, you know, and then weirdly, crazy enough, like that actually happened. I remember that phone call, getting the first film. I was 14, and I had to go in to meet and all that. And then getting that phone call, it really changed my life, because that's really like kind of the biggest movie I've ever done on scale wise, you know, having it be a Disney film with Angelina Jolie, like working with her. It completely changed, and also realizing kind of the responsibility too, because after that, you know, young girls would come up to me, start and be like, and not even say, "Are you Elle Fanning?" It's like, "You are Aurora," you know, "You're Sleeping Beauty," and just having that, you know, kids recognize you in that way was interesting in little girls. So I know it's so fun to do, and getting to kind of grow with that character. You know, we got to do the second one, which came out not too long ago. So I'm proud of that for sure.
Yeah, as you should be. Elle, I think The Great is so great, and people are going to be so amazed at how funny it is. Thanks so much for your time today. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Now, everyone go to goldderby.com, make your predictions, and click subscribe. We've got lots of chats with contenders just like Elle.